Yo, what's going on guys, it's Cryptic TMG back with a brand new video, and this time it's the season finale of the AOR GT3 Elite Championship, and at Monza in pretty tricky conditions, which was sort of an evening night race. And yeah, unfortunately for the Audi drivers, it was really hard to get your hard tires heated up, so I had to sort of put softs on one side of the car and hards on the other, and it was, yeah, it just wasn't something I was really liking. In the daytime, the Audi could compete, because remember, this race is sort of after the latest patch, but in the night it just seemed there was just not a lot of grip, and almost forced into using the soft tires. But I just knew the soft tires in the race, they just going off too fast on the front right, so sort of had to have half left, the hards on the left and the softs on the right, and see how we will go. And this is just coming up towards the end of our first banker lap, and yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great lap. I was sort of taking it sort of cautious just to get that banker lap in, because I know how costly it can be if you don't sort of get a banker in. But we come across the line with a 48.7, which I knew I could pretty easily improve upon. But going towards the end of the session now, I've just completely messed up all my laps after that banker, so we're sort of down to this last lap, see how much I can improve. See, I'm down in 5th place at the moment, but I was kind of expecting to get round about a 48.0 is where I thought I would be at. So obviously at the moment there's loads of time to find, and braking late into turn 1, and for some reason we just don't get it slowed down. I don't even think I broke too late. You can see we just pretty much threw away almost half a second there already, and we're down on our original time. But obviously I took it pretty safe on that lap, so I knew if I just threw caution to the wind, I could probably make the time back up. It wasn't going to be easy, because obviously the chicanes are pretty tricky, and after the latest patch it is quite strict on corner cutting, so I was trying to just nail it perfectly. Even there I was pretty slow through there, but I still ended up gaining time on my original time, so I knew I could definitely still improve, but wasn't going to be enough to sort of get me into 3rd place. Coming up to the second Lesmo here, and again I just completely missed the apex and go wide and start losing more time again. Really scrappy lap, but I mean, I know I'm probably not the greatest around Monza anyway, but it was a pretty bad lap. I mean, my first lap wasn't, I wouldn't say it was bad, it was accurate, but it was very slow and safe. And you can see now, just as I'm just pushing more through corners, it's I'm just gaining time every time I sort of push through a corner. But obviously with the mistake at the first corner, didn't look like it was going to be enough. I had to sort of improve by sort of 3 tenths, so unless I absolutely banzaied the last corner, it was going to be pretty difficult. Brake pretty late for the last corner, take sort of a late apex, gained a bit of time, but clearly it wasn't going to be enough. So it seems as if we're going to be starting down in 5th place, which, I mean, wasn't the worst that could happen. And luckily for us, the patch has sort of slowed down the Ferraris, despite the fact CJ and Carl obviously got some very fast times. Clearly has slowed down the Ferraris. Sissavoma struggled a bit, and you can see that also the McLaren being slowed down quite a bit. So yeah, it was sort of not too bad for us. 5th place, and right at the start, sort of getting ready to get the jump on the guys in front. And yeah, just for some reason, I thought I just saw the Ferrari go, and I just nudged the back of Saab and actually gave myself 4% damage right at the front. And yeah, so damage already. It's going to make us a tad bit slower down the straight, but to be honest, I mean, it was season finale. I wasn't really too bothered about the result, as long as it's had a clean race. You can see we've already been overtaken on the left hand side by, I think that was Fogarty. And yeah, so now we're back down into 6th. We've got 3 Audis in front of us, so obviously we're going to have very similar straight line speed. The Ferrari did seem to have just a tad bit more straight line speed, but if you got in the slipstream you could still sort of attack. And I think Carl's actually got in the lead at this stage, so he's jumped CJ at the start. So it's all going off in front of us. You can see Sarpo runs a little bit wide there, and yeah, it's always a pretty messy first lap at Monza. We can see us having a look at the inside of Fogarty, but we obviously couldn't make the move. We wasn't far enough alongside, and we're sort of just trying to stick it out in this first lap just to keep close and just try and get into our rhythm. But you see CJ drops it on the curb, we run into CJ, hit the wall, just carnage behind, and yeah, started the race in 5th, and we're almost down to last place at the minute. So yeah, I mean, CJ drops it on the curb, obliterates half the field. I've got pretty strong damage at the moment, so I'm gonna have to pit. And yeah, just really bad start to the race, really bad start. It's a little bit unfortunate, but I mean, it happens. And yeah, I was gonna have to come in for a pit stop, and that was pretty much race over for me then. I pretty much sort of lost the whole urge to race after that incident. So yeah, it was pretty damning what happened on the first corner. You can see us trying to make sure we've requested a pit stop, just in case, you know, this game does some dodgy stuff sometimes. So yeah, into the pits, and yeah, it was all going wrong at this point. You see, there's a few other people coming to the pits as well. I think obviously CJ is gonna have to come in. I think RBR, who's a new guy to the league, he's had to come in. So a few people have had to come in and make a pit stop. Obviously, the people who haven't pitted, they're gonna have obviously now a massive advantage. And yeah, you can see the repairs just taking time. I actually took fuel. I don't know why it took fuel. I haven't got that even set up. So very weird. So our pit stop was just way longer than it actually needed to be. CJ ended up jumping. In fact, everybody ended up jumping us. We ended up right at the back. Yeah, it's pretty weird. I don't know why it took fuel, but yeah, obviously now right at the back of the field now, and yeah, it's just a case of just pushing. And later on that lap, we catch up to RBR, and this is for 14th place. And I think, to be honest, I think he just eases off and lets us through. Yeah, so that's up into 14th place. We've got CJ in front of us, and yeah, it was going to be a tough task to catch CJ because the Ferraris were just a little bit quick around here, to be honest. It wasn't really the speed, it was just the fact that they could sort of run hard tires and heat them up, whereas the Audi was just impossible to heat the right hand side tires. So that was more the sticking point. And it's crazy when you can't heat your tires up in this game. It literally makes you slower down the straight, you're slower out of every corner, you're slower through every corner, you can't brake as late. So yeah, that's the reason why I sort of had to run the soft tires on one side of the car. But at the moment you can see the temperatures were kind of leveled out, even though the PSI is pretty different from left to right, but the temperatures are sort of leveled out on the car, which was sort of what I focused on. And that was Fogarty coming out of the pit, so that's another position up into 13th place. And yeah, braking late into turn 1 behind CJ again. We sort of overshoot the corner like we did in our qualifying lap, but I mean, at this point it was just pretty much going to see how far we could get up. Wasn't expecting too much after that start. It was a pretty difficult start. Now knew we was losing to King Jarnett's in the championship, because King Jarnett's started pretty far back, because I think the McLaren did get a pretty big nerf in the latest patch. Didn't make it too fast down the straights. And yeah, obviously second place in the championship was up for grabs. To be honest, first place was up for grabs, but Sisu Voma did have quite a big lead, so it would have been pretty difficult to I probably would have had to win this race and hope he finished like way down the field or something crazy like that, which wasn't really too likely to happen. But I think we were a point or 2 points behind King Jarnett's, and he started about 5-6 places behind us. So obviously that was the aim before the race, to sort of just close out the second place in the championship. But obviously with this start now, way behind King Jarnett's in this race, about a minute and 3 seconds behind the leader. And yeah, it was massive. No, I think is it a minute and 3 seconds? Yeah, a minute and 3 seconds behind the leader. So yeah, that's massive. And you can see us just trying to hang on to CJ, really, try and see if we can stay in his slipstream and see if he can drag us forward. But to be honest, at this point my head had gone. I was already pretty pissed at what had happened. And yeah, it was just one of the races, and eventually you knew CJ would just start pulling away because they could sort of run in the sort of low 48s, and for me it was sort of best lap time I managed with full fuel was like a 48.9 or something like that. So yeah, that was it. And then coming on to lap 12, all of a sudden my game just goes to the pause menu right before turn 1 and just completely puts us into the wall. Only got 1% damage though, but and then I had to slow down for the pit lane penalty, and sorry, I had to slow down so I didn't get a penalty, and that just killed us even more. Massive slowdown. And for some reason, if you look on the right hand side of my speedo, it put stability control on, and I was thinking, how the hell is it put stability control on when stability control is disallowed in the game menu? So going into corners, and if you don't use stability control when you try and put it on, it just feels so weird. It just like catches the car from every corner. So you can see me, I'm trying to figure out how to turn this off because it's getting on my nerves, and I'm trying to go through corners. It just makes the car feel weird. But I couldn't even take it off. So it was crazy. I don't know. It's just one of them little glitches that happens on P cars, sort of with the T300, when it just throws you back to the pause menu. I don't really understand it personally, but lap 17 we're gonna have to pit again. You can see our front right is just destroyed, and I actually picked a pre-selected pit strategy which would change my tires, and going to the pits we didn't even manage to get it slowed down. Ended up getting a 10-second penalty on top of that, but wasn't too concerned. I mean, what was the worst that was really gonna happen? I was already pretty close to the back anyway, and yeah, coming to the pits, and for some reason they just don't even change the tires. They repair the damage, and after that I was just like, you know what, I'm done. I can't be asked. And first DNF of the season, which was at the last race, and yeah, this is how the race ended up finishing, I believe. Carl won the race, followed by Sapo, who did a really good job in the Audi, really good job. CJ managed to claw his way back up to 3rd place, and the implications of that was he actually ended up taking our 3rd place in the championship. So we ended up finishing 4th after this race. So yeah, it was a pretty poor result, but to be honest, I mean, it was just sort of a test season, 6 races, and wasn't too big of a deal, to be honest. Next season is more where we're all gonna have to be a little bit more focused, try and cut the mistakes out, and yeah, try and sort of make sure we've got our car down so it's not so sketchy in a race, which was a problem. Not too sure what car I'm going to use for next season yet. Been trying out a lot of cars, and after the patch, the cars are a lot closer at the front, so hopefully we can get sort of a bigger difference in cars, what people are using, not just a Ferrari Cup or an Audi Cup. And yeah, I think next week we might be actually doing a race at Fuji, sort of an after season race, so I might live stream that or something like that. But yeah, for more videos, like and subscribe. It's Cryptic TMG. Hit that notification bell. Peace.